I'm really just a mouthpiece for the questions that have been put forth by all of you, and so when they're provided to me, I will ask them. After we do the opening statements, I think we should probably, I've asked that the first questions, or first round of questions we have be general in nature, and everybody will have, every candidate will have an opportunity to answer that question. And after everybody's gone through one, then we'll give everybody 30 seconds to respond to the people who have already spoken. And that'll generally be the scenario. We'll have a question, you'll have 1 minute to answer and 30 seconds to respond. Do we have all the seats that are available filled?
One more is here, right here. And a couple over here, yeah. Somebody wants to come in and be seated, there's a couple of chairs over, there's 2 seats over here.
No.
And one seat.
Someone could take this one, Merle.
Okay. Still one more seat?
We have another seat that's empty if somebody wants to sit inside. That's it. We should get started. Cheryl?
Okay, thank you. Good evening. I want to thank the Mountain Mail for hosting tonight's event. It is an important part of the election process. I love living in Salida, and my husband and I have volunteered in a variety of ways since the day we moved here. When I joined the Chaffee County Heritage Area Board 10 years ago, I had no idea I would end up on a land use roundtable for 3 or 4 years. Well, you know, one thing led to another, and here I am today. But this was a great way for this to happen because I gained the right experience and I have broad support reflected in my campaign committee of Democrats and Republicans. I have held leadership positions in my volunteer work as well as in my professional career. I have a background in math, statistics, assessment, grant writing, and evaluation. I will use these skills to analyze issues and fiscal policy and bring a balanced, reasoned approach to city decisions. I am conscientious, I come to the table prepared, I listen, and I consider consequences. I have worked hard in this campaign to promote what I have called the big issues. As a community, we have been distracted by an agenda set by a small group, and our focus has been drawn away from these critical topics. These are interrelated: housing, vacation rentals, expanding our economic base, and planning and managing for our future. That is, how do we want Salida to grow and change, or do we not want it to do so? We are at a turning point. We have been discovered, I think, and if we want to preserve our small town character and our sense of community, it is time we make sure our policies and code match what we want, where we want it, what we want it to look like, and what we don't want. We cannot stop change, but we can manage it. And most significantly, I will use a respectful approach in collaborating with council members, staff, and the public. My tactics are civil. I have never engaged in personal attacks and will work to find common ground and compromise so that council is not gridlocked.
Thank you.
I found Salida in 1992 and moved to this perfect little valley late the following year. And it's only grown more glorious. I've really come to love this place and the people in it. Well, it didn't occur to me at the time, it was the dead of winter. I found myself overlooking Salida's greatest treasure until the following spring. And that treasure was and is her people. There are some real characters here, but I came to understand that that's what the mountain seemed to have been built for in the first place. And my new home has lost none of her character. She's only grown more beautiful over 22 years. One thing did change, though. I ran for office. I began meeting folks in Ward 2, and many from beyond my ward's boundaries. Everyday living hadn't led me to many people that I met on my ward tours, and I didn't stop to actually count them, but I believe I have met and chatted with and enjoyed the company of well over 1,000 new neighbors. And that has been a deal of joy. Salida has given me that. Now I want to give back. through so much laughter and some of the heart-wrenching times as well with a few of the women on the ward. The opening of doors and homes of so many has encouraged me beyond my own imaginings. I am truly thankful for this experience. I want to use my skills to the betterment of my new neighbors. I want to contribute to the city as a whole as one of your new councilmen. I want to listen to you. I want to work with fellow council members to learn and to build and to serve in the needs and the hopes of Salidans. Thank you.
Rusty.
Good evening. Thank you to the Mountain Mill for hosting this tonight. My name is Rusty Granzella. I'm a city council candidate in Ward 1. I am unopposed. I am a Salida native, and I was probably born about 25 feet on the other side of this wall here. I went to St. Joseph Elementary School. I went to Kestner Junior High here. I graduated from Salida High School. I'm not going to tell you what year. I did get my Bachelor of Science degree from Colorado State University in Fort Collins. And back then it was called a concentration in accounting. I spent a year working for Standard Oil after college in California. I came back to Salida to work in a family-owned business, the Salida Motors Auto Dealership. I did that for 20 years here, so I'm very familiar with the business environment here in this area. After we sold the dealership in 2002, I went to work for People's Bank and Trust for a year as a commercial loan officer, and then 4 years after that with Sunflower Bank branch office here in Salida as a branch manager and president. The last 7 years, well, and of course we all know what happened in 2008, 2009, they closed the branch here. But then the last 7 years, my wife and I have been landlords and real estate developers. I look forward, well, as long as my wife votes for me, I look forward to working with your choices of mayor and city councilman. And my comments tonight will be fairly brief, so thank you.
Jim?
I'm Jim Levici, and I thank you for the opportunity to tell why I should be the next mayor. First, I want to address what has been said here about me. Jerry Mallett said that politics is a blood sport. I don't see it that way. I'm trying to keep my campaign positive. I am not a CAG member or candidate. I have nothing to do with the CAG's political ads, or cartoons. That is the truth. Enough already. There are distinctions between Mr. Whitman and myself. The most obvious is Forrest is a politician and has been for years. He was planning commissioner for 7 years, then county commissioner in Gilpin from 2005 to 2013. Gilpin County is home to the gambling sites of Blackhawk and Central City, so they have an income resource that we do not have here, nor do we want here. Recently, Forrest was chair of the Chaffee County Democratic Party. I am not a politician up to now. I've been a businessman, a volunteer. That does not mean I know nothing about politics. But there is also politics in business. As a manager, I learned my way around those politics and became an effective business manager for UPS. I have the skills as a successful politician, but as a business manager, I've had to stick to the budget and had not the luxury of raising taxes when there were cost overruns. I think that gives me an edge over someone who has spent a lot of time in the government. As a nonpartisan candidate, I have made a point to talk to all current council, mayor, candidates, staff member, media, CAG sympathizers, anti-CAG, those who are political savvy, and some of the movers and shakers in our community. As mayor, I plan to continue that conversation.
Alicia?
I'm Elisa Pappenfort, a Salida resident for 35 years. I traveled from Georgia to raise my young daughter to a safe, friendly, small town. I never thought I would marry a cop or have a teenager and gray hair at the same time, or step into politics. Our passions direct our path. I'll make a good council person because I have 25 years of financial experience. I understand our issues. I direct finance at Boys and Girls Clubs, Government and nonprofits sell the same product. It's service. I understand that the same dollars can't do two things at once, that inflation is real, and that deferring work drives up the cost. I'll work toward effective government with a focus on ethics and civility. I'll push for adoption of codes for conduct and ethics with clear definitions for conflicts of interest. I'll push for council to do its job, set policies, and govern. Too much time is wasted on micromanaging. I'll work toward a fiscally responsible approach to quality service. That's the business of government. Public engagement is key to a representative government. Without it, we descend into minority rules. I'll form a task force in Ward 3 to listen to the citizens, especially those with different views. I'll focus on critical community services like transportation, living wage, and affordable shelter options. I'll support our parks and trails as free family playgrounds. I will champion a family-friendly community with equitable distribution of city resources. I am passionate for Salida and its people. Thank you.
Dr. Whitman.
Forrest Whitman, excuse me, I'm running for mayor here in Salida. I love Salida, and since we bought our house here about 9 years ago, I've volunteered almost everywhere in this town, and now I'm volunteering to be your mayor. And that's because Salidans need and want affordable housing. And I am that man. I've been a spoke in a wheel that's created a lot of affordable housing. I've been a spoke in a wheel that's supported a lot of development, a lot of jobs in mining, a lot of jobs in forestry, a lot of jobs in the recreation area, and we can create those jobs here. No reason at all why not. Those are the things Salidans want and need. To make that work, we're going to have a task force. We're going to have to consider some things we haven't so far. We are going to definitely have to consider taxing vacation rentals, and if you're in that business, I apologize, but taxing vacation rentals and putting that money into a pool which we can use for affordable housing, because it's got to be a public-private partnership always. And Salidans need and want a well-run city council, one that follows Robert's Rules of Order, one where people don't interrupt each other, and I've had lots of experience with that. So if you want our small town character to remain, if you want jobs, if you want housing, you'll vote for me for mayor. And I love Salida, and I think I'd love it even more if I had the ability to be your mayor. And one final thing, I was just asked as I came in here about water. I was on the advisory board for a power company, and we got this Roundup thing going, and we could use that here to lower water rates for the needy folks. Thanks.
Okay, the first, oh, sorry, Mike. You're so small, I couldn't see you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hi, I'm Mike Bowers, and I'm running for re-election for Salida City Council, Ward 3. For those of you that don't know me, I moved to Salida from Colorado Springs in 1975. I've lived in Ward 3 for over 40 years, and I own and operate a small business as well as be a deputy sheriff for Chaffee County. I was employed as a police officer for the city of Salida, retired after 28 years. I'm married. I have 4 wonderful children, 8 grandchildren, all of which have been raised in Salida. I've been involved in public service for most of my adult life. I love Salida and its small community quality lifestyle. I'm running for re-election to continue my public service to this community in hopes of representing the voice and the will of the citizens regarding the future of our city. I believe I possess the knowledge and experience to deal with the many challenges we will face with economic development, road and infrastructure repair and replacement, cost of living, creation of jobs, and affordable housing. I oppose raises in the city water and wastewater rates unless they are proven to be unavoidable and necessary. I also believe in government transparency, and I'm against changing any vote of the people. Laws and statutes and city policy must be followed and strictly adhered to by city officials. If elected, I will continue to work to restore the public confidence and trust of the city government and staff, demanding respect and civility towards all citizens who approach or contact officials of the city of Salida. Thank you.
Everybody? Okay. As moderator, I am going to exercise some discretion about these questions. I'm going to ask all the questions as they're written, but at least the first question, rather than a minute to respond, I'd ask for 30 seconds to respond and no rebuttal, because it's basically bragging about yourself. And so, and we'll start with Bob, since you, what is one of your civic or professional accomplishments that you are most proud of, and why?
I would say working with domestic violence was the thing I'm most proud of, because I learned so much about people performing that work. I became the executive director and learned a lot about nonprofits. That was in the early 80s. But more recently, you know, being the financial administrator for Boys and Girls Club, I just get to do so many different things there, grant budgets, creating large budgets. And I see so many parallels between the nonprofit world and government.
Okay. And
It
we're going
goes
this
to
way.
Forrest, and then back
Oh,
to
okay.
Mike, and then the next question goes to Forrest, and then it goes like that.
All right.
Okay?
I knew you'd remind us.
Most proud of creating over 800 affordable housing units in my old county in about 12 years. And I think I could do that here as well. Do I get second most proud?
Nope, just one.
Just one. Okay.
That's pretty short.
My most proud moments for Salida was my service as a police officer and also a community watch director. I worked with many of the neighborhoods here. I also established bicycle safety and different safety programs for children, as well as children fingerprints and that such a thing. So my service to the community is my most important.
My first thought was, such as you said, but I think what I want to talk about is that I headed up a local study for League of Women Voters on geothermal energy. And as a result of that study, we established a regulation in the county, which could be also a model for the city. And it set things up so that everyone knows how the permitting process goes. So it's good for the developer and good for the community and good protection for the residents.
Well,
I think that as far as community service goes, I think that one of my most rewarding things was my time with the Chaffey County Assessor's Office. I worked there for 7 years before retiring. And I found the interaction with the public to be extremely rewarding, particularly when we were able to reach an agreement or an understanding as to the degrees of options they had, the next steps they had. Thank you.
I would have to say my 8 years on the Salida School Board, where we built the Head Start Center, the new high school, and Longfellow Elementary School. But I have to say that my most enjoyable was the last 20 years working with 4 to 16-year-old kids playing baseball every summer.
Mine has to be my wife and I, Jody, and my girls, Jen and Jade. We coordinate to the community Thanksgiving dinner for the city of Salida for 10 years. We served in the neighborhood of 550 people and delivered 125 meals or thereabouts. But it was a great opportunity to, lead by example for my girls. And it taught us a lot, and a lot of great people. And this was our last year, this past year, but I'm sure they're going to do fine.
okay. So the next question starts with Forrest. All right. Merle is the arbiter of all things.
Next
quick.
Leadership style. Currently, there appears to be two philosophies on how council interacts with staff. Some council members feel it is inappropriate to meet with staff outside of public meetings. Some feel that meeting with staff outside of meetings is how the work and communication should happen. How do you feel communication between council and staff should take place?
Well, the mayor is key here. The mayor meets with the staff and says, here's what the council wants you to do. You may agree or you may disagree with what the way the staff responds, but the mayor is the key communicator back and forth. To say that needs to be announced, well, it could be announced if there's public policy to be discussed. Press can be there. In my old job, a lot of times the press would come. And so it seems to me the mayor is absolutely vital if we're going to communicate back and forth, and that sometimes the mayor will agree with the staff, sometimes the mayor will disagree with the staff. I think of the former mayor, and the former mayor and I have met a lot. I like him. And we've met a lot, and we've talked about the times that I would have voted the way he voted on a tie, and the times we've talked about the times when the two of us would agree to disagree. Okay.
And basically, I think we have to have an open dialogue between the staff and, excuse me, and the council members. But that stops at a certain degree when citizens need to be aware of what's going on, and especially this has to do with transparency. So I think an open dialogue with the staff as well as the community, as we've recently had a number of people who were together on how to get our words out to the people, and but certainly that dialogue has to exist, and it has to exist between a good mayor and councils.
I think that staff are a source of background and facts, and often that's presented in a council meeting or in a workshop. And I think after that point, then it's really the discussion between council that is very critical. I would really like to see a different kind of discussion going on with council, because I think it tends to be what one person's opinion is another person's opinion. And I would really like to see the focus be finding solutions, and they may not be the solution that's presented, but we really need to work on solutions that fit for as many people as possible. But I do like the idea of when you get a good idea and it's in between council meetings, to be able to go to staff and run some of that by and see if it would work.
Could you repeat that question, please?
Currently, there appears to be two philosophies on how council interacts with staff. Some council members feel it is inappropriate to meet with staff outside of public meetings. Some feel that meeting with staff outside of meetings is how the work and communication should happen. How do you feel communication between council and staff should take place?
I believe that an awful lot of it should be public and between the council and the staff. As far as going off the radar or anything like that, I don't feel comfortable with that. I think the more we can approach things in a way of truly reaching some sort of a consensus on ideas, but I'm kind of lost on that question. Yeah. Thanks.
Rusty?
My style is I like to understand the operations of the city, whether it's administrative, public works, just understand it. I don't need to know every detail. As far as talking with department heads or city staff, I enjoy interacting with them, talking to them, learning different things, seeing what their point of view is. That's where your answers come from. And then as far as sharing it with council, we have to share with each other. We have to share our each individual expertise and know-how so that we get a good round knowledge of what the situation is. Thank you.
I think communication is key, the key to solve problems. If you're in politics and or business, I think it's very important to be respectful to each other. And I think it's been demonstrated that there's not been a lot of respect for the staff and for the council people. And as mayor, I plan to make sure that does happen. I think I'm kind of a hands-on kind of person. So yes, I would like to talk to all the people, and that's kind of the premise I've had for the last couple of months. You know, talking to different entities and just seeing what their ideas are. You know, seeing, understanding what's important to them and what needs to be addressed and so forth. But again, communication. That is the key. That is the key. Thank you.
Happy for it.
You know, we can visualize our government as a three-legged stool. And those legs are the community, the council, and the staff. And without any one of those legs, the stool topples over. We absolutely have to talk with the staff because the government is so complicated and they are professional staff who work with it full time. If we're going to understand the level of complexity at a level that we can create policy, we have to talk to staff. As the creator of the budget at Boys and Girls Club, when people have questions, they come to me. I'm the expert. I'm the one who put it together. They understand the laws and they know what went into it. You know, so we absolutely have to talk with them so we can learn from them, so we can make good decisions. It's essential. They're our teachers.
Does anybody feel they need to rebut anything that's been said? If not, we've gone through half an hour and had 2 questions, so I'd like to forego rebuttal as much as possible. Okay, next question. Mike?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. What will you do to ensure that the code of conduct, code of ethics, civility, and collaborative decision-making are part of the way City Council operates in the future? I would ask this be a 30-second question rather than a minute. We have a lot of questions and not that much time.
I would say that it would be imperative that we follow Robert's rule. We need a good leader that can take control of these sessions, and when it gets out of hand, he needs to step in as mayor and stop it immediately. Civility and the way you treat people, especially the citizens, is very important to me. Public relations. Thank you.
For 2 years, I've been sitting as treasurer observing what's been going on in city council meetings. And the lack of civility and disrespect is one of the reasons I wanted to step in and be more involved in the government. I think we need a lot of structure at the meetings. I do think we need a code of ethics that's been brought up several times, and the council has not accepted it, but I think it's important because we need a code of ethics not only for what the council does, but also for public input during that time. And we really need to move to a more respectful session.
Lisa?
I agree that civility is a very, very necessary thing. I've seen in the time that I've been coming to meetings, which has been the last 3 or 4 months, I find that very often things degenerate from a perspective of the dead stop to a full tilt, out of control. And nothing happens then. Everybody loses. You never win when that kind of thing happens. And a structure like Robert's Rules or whatever is really needed.
Interesting.
I will listen and I will hold myself to what I've termed professional courtesy at meetings. And then I will rely on the mayor to do his job.
I feel that you need a strong person. You need somebody that's going to be very forceful to make sure that the Roberts rules are being done. I think we all need to hang our egos at the door, our stubbornness at the door, be civil with each other, agree to disagree, but move on for a positive community. Without that, we'll be lost.
The local government needs to function at the highest level of integrity. We absolutely need a code of ethics and conduct. State statutes are vague on many issues. For example, family relationship. What does that mean? Siblings, independent children, cousins? Let's get some clarity around that. If I'm elected, I will push to make this happen quickly. Because even though council voted it down 5-1 in April of 2014, it is sorely needed.
And Forrest.
Robert's Rules of Order, it's wonderful. I've enforced that for many years now. It allows everyone to speak. It allows you not to have the floor unless the chair gives you the floor. It allows you not to call out any other council members without being ruled actually out of order. And it allows for audience to be respectful and to listen to what the council is saying. All we know about Robert's Rules has come from the last 100 years.
Wasn't it Robert?
Was Robert.
Okay.
You can have a sense of humor too about that.
And Cheryl, I guess the next question is for you to start. How would you describe your attitude about growth? Is Salida growing too fast, too slow, just right? And is it the right kind of growth or the wrong kind of growth?
One of the issues that I've talked about a lot in my campaign has to do with planning for the future, because I don't believe that you can stop change or growth, but you can manage it. And I think we need to have our policies in line and our land use codes in line to be able to manage that growth. My son was born in Breckenridge. He just turned 40, and I certainly do not want us to end up looking like Breckenridge. I'm very concerned about that. I do not want us to lose our sense of community here. The friendliness and the openness that we have in this town, that's, I think, what brought most of us here. And so I really think that we need to start identifying what we want it to look like, and it's time to really lay that out in specifics and then make sure that we can follow through with managing that.
I think we're seeing a lot of growth that is vital to the structure or the existing structure of the city. I do think that there's a real potential for further specialized growth. I would really like to see some sort of vocational VOTEC school come in here that would lead to better paying jobs and a better served workplace, a better served workforce. I think something like that would be a growth that would contribute long-term. I think it would help to just change an awful lot of the structure. There's so many people who are underpaid, underemployed, and something like that I think would be great. As far as growth in general, I think we're pretty much on the right path, but I think we need to examine alternatives.
I think growth is going to happen in Salida. I think it grows quicker and quicker with the overall economy of the country. I think we can manage growth, but I think for the most part, as a city council, we have to prepare for growth and be ready for growth.
I think growth is, it's going to happen. I mean, there's no way around it. But it can be manageable. I think it's important to manage it in the respect that we work on being able to provide a focus on, maintaining growth in that we provide jobs and housing and how they intertwine with each other. Make sure that the growth is manageable. Make sure we go in a positive direction. I think it will happen. There's no way around that. But on the same token, it should be manageable. It should be something that we structure and make sure that we have everything in place to do it from a long term. We can't just think about growth in 1 year. We've got to look at 10, 15, 20 years from now. Because as we know, that things have changed so quickly and it will continue to change. So we definitely need to be prepared for it.
Growth is happening at about 3.5% a year. And so we do have to face that reality. Right now, what's happening on one side of town is 2-acre lots and they look like they're just gonna go on forever. On the other side of town, we've got Vanderveer, a place where we can have some housing units that can be in the flavor of the community and be close enough to town that it can bike and walk and do all those things that we've bragged about forever. 5 minutes to anywhere, here we are. We've got the water, we need to continue to build the infrastructure, and we need to think about if we're gonna incentivize some high-density units and infill, and how are we going to do it? Where are we gonna put them? Are we gonna enforce some size limits? Or are we gonna keep having mega mansions breaking up the view? People wanna come here, it's a beautiful place. We've gotta envision what that's gonna look like and start planning around it.
We've got to envision it, and we've got to think about our small town character. We can keep our small town character if we manage the growth in a good way. The growth is coming right down 285. 285 is becoming 4-lane more and more. We are the new I-70, and we need to be there and deal with it. We've got a wonderful asset in Vanderveer, and we can plan and use that asset well. And we as a council and a mayor can give wise counsel to our staff so that they will move toward that small town character and everything that happens and everything that they do. So it's going to be great. But we do have to do some things, and I hate to harp on this, but we're going to have to find a way to tax vacation rentals. And we're going to have to put that money into a pool so that we can grow in a smart way. And we're full of smart people.
Okay. Bob, the next question starts with you.
Answer that question.
Oh. No disrespect to you, Mike.
Thank you. You know, I've lived here for 40 years, and I've been hopeful that growth would occur. But growth has to be controlled. It has to be planned. And we have to look at the economic picture. We've got some great people on the economic development portion of Chaffey County working for Salida and Buena Vista. That's Mr. Wendell Pryor and Jeff Post. Those people have done wonders. But we're going to have to work on some things besides just affordable housing. The cost of living in Salida is almost unbearable. As we look around, you see a bunch of old guys like me, not too many young guys, and families. We've lost 20 students out of our school already this year. This has in the past been a trend. I would like to see that change. I'd like to see some affordable housing. I'd like to see some efforts to get jobs in here, good jobs, like we used to have with Climax and some of those places, so that young people can be here too.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay. The Governmental Accounting Standards Board tells us that local government revenues that are restricted for specific purposes should be recorded, accounted for, and reported in separate funds. The current administration uses a pooled cash account. What is your position on segregating restricted revenues into separate funds?
My position on that is that's what a standards board, government accounting standards board calls for, and I think that should be enough credibility for the city to initiate and exercise an obedient attitude towards that, and not pool resources that should be kept separate.
Okay.
The city accounting is even a little difficult for me to understand with my background, although I've spent 20 years plus on the profit accounting. But I think we need to have as many funds that makes it as easy for all of us to understand what's going on as we need. So that's kind of where I'm at on that.
I think, we talked about fund accounting, and I think, correct me, but I think there's 4 for the city. I talked to Dan Shore from the county. He said he has 22 fund accounts. And he said the reason he has the 22 is because it gives him more accessibility to look at the data as opposed to yes, the data is there, but you have to, get into the weeds to figure out what it all entails. So if it brings out, it makes better sense to do that. I would be for affordable, or for fund accounting, to make sure that we have the accessibility to get that information as quick as possible, and to control it and, see it on a daily basis. So I am definitely for affordable fund accounting.
For accounting, I believe in the basic law of accounting, and that's to make sure that the value of the data exceeds the cost of gathering the data. So I believe that administration is in the best position to manage those decisions. They know how to get the information out of there. They can pull out any kind of report that is necessary, and they can abide by all the laws and provide the reporting that is necessary. So I'd like to keep the cost down on that and reduce the burden on them. I remember one council member ran on the platform of reducing administrative costs. So I would really like to see that become a reality and let people who are doing the work do the work. Thank you.
Several of us went this week to the city finance workshop, and in the finance workshop, we were instructed into the funds that we do have, how they might be divided into sub-funds, and the cost administratively to open up more funds. And it's very interesting, because the question is the cost of more and more funds, does that really benefit understanding what's in the budget? And you have to work that through fund by fund. We have 4 funds now, and they could be divided. Some people are thinking we might even divide it into as many as 8 funds. But the question is, would the cost of the 8 funds really help the public to understand better what's in each fund? And I can't answer that question. I think the staff is going to try to, but the next council is going to have to take a look at it.
I think that these funds should be established, and I think they ought to be monitored and audited. Those funds are made up of tax dollars and people's money from the city. And I think it ought to be easily understood, and they can look at it to see exactly how much is in those funds and where they're being spent. I think it's imperative that those funds be created to whatever number. I'd hate to see 22 of them, but if that's what's necessary and that's what's transparent to the public, and we get a good audit out of it, I think it's worth every penny of it.
Since I'm not an accountant, I have been taking some classes in governmental accounting, which is different than business accounting. And we are audited in all of our funds now, and we do have fund accounting now. And so the question is, how many funds do you want to have? And so in a recent government accounting class that I took, that topic came up, and we had a discussion in the class about this. And the instructor in that class really pointed to the fact that being able to track the funds is the critical issue. That as long as you track the funds, and it's easy to track the funds, and they're all coded, it doesn't really matter whether it's in a separate fund or, and all of that money that is designated is in separate accounts right now. So I think it's the tracking that's really important, and that's what we need to focus on.
All right, go on to the next question. In Consumer Price Index, there will be no cost of living increase for Social Security recipients for 2016. The city administration wants across-the-board raises in salaries for city employees of 3% plus corresponding increase in benefits. What is your policy on salary and benefit increases for city employees?
I guess we'll have to find out whether we're under the ordinance or the referendum first. But, all the employees are all very deserving of increases, as are all the residents who work hard in this community. That will be a decision we will have to make as a group, and as well as a little more understanding of our stable revenues that we've had and look to having in the future.
Like Rusty, I agree that our employees are value asset to our community. And all too often, it seems like when there's cuts, they're the first ones to be cut. I think we need to address that. I think it's very important that we understand that it's very competitive out there. And if we start losing more and more of our city employees, go to other areas or other places, it's going to hurt us in the long run. You talk about training and you talk about, them to understand the job and so forth. So it's kind of a thing, we need to make sure that our employees are paid properly, and we want to make sure that they keep their families here and not move to another locale. So I think it's very important we look at it as a council and do what's right for the employee and do what's right for Salida, because it's very important that we maintain our employees.
Well, the fact is that the 3% cost of living raise and the merit pool have both been slashed from the budget. And so that is off the table. I disagree with that. I think that we have a very high cost of living here and that we need to honor our employees and be competitive. We are still below the average for the state on wages. And it's a sad situation. I see somebody shaking their head, thanks for the respect. But the benefits are extremely expensive, and insurance has increased about 80%. Those numbers are often rolled into the wage figures and misquoted because they've had a very minimal, just barely ahead of the rate of inflation raises. And so they're still not where they need to be. And I'm very sad that those are chopped out of the budget.
You're telling me my railroad retirement is not going to go up again this month? Oh, well, I can handle it somehow. The key to this is a 360 evaluation. There was some disparagement a while ago about political solutions. Well, if I call a plumber and he knocks on my door and the first thing he says is, "I am not a plumber," I'll have a question, because if he knocks on my door and says, "I'm a politician," we'll find a political answer. That's what's really important. And that's what a 360 means. It means you evaluate the community, you evaluate the other employees, you evaluate other governments, and then you come up with fair wages for whatever position that might be. And I think we'd be surprised if we really did a true 360 on our administrator, on our staff. I think we'd be surprised to find out where that would come out. My prediction is that we would be a bit below average, but we don't.
I'm not opposed to raises for especially our employees in the city. What I do think we have to do is we have to take into consideration a lot of things. The general fund, how much income we're getting, and how many other people are getting raises. I know when I left Colorado Springs as a police officer and moved to Salida, I took a substantial cut. I've done that because I wanted to, because of the quality of life. I don't expect everybody to do that. But I think we have to take this into consideration. That there's like Mayor Tauber used to say years ago, he said, "We got a pot of money here, and we're going to dip into it. We're going to give what we can. And when that's gone, it's gone." Sometimes you have to understand that. The benefits are another thing that we could look at. Thank you.
During this past year, we had an opening in the police department and another opening in public works. And we went for a couple of months in both of those positions without a single applicant. And I think that says something about how competitive our wages are here in Salida. Certainly, if we look at cost of living, I think the process that Forrest described is one that has been used in the city in the past, looking at the county, looking at the counties around us, comparable cities, and looking at what they are offering for cost of living increases and doing our best to match that. I think it is important that we keep the knowledge base and expertise that we have in the city as much as we can. And in the next 5 years, we have a lot of people that are going to be retiring from the city, and we are going to be losing a lot of that expertise and background. And so we really need to be looking to that and seeing how we can deal with that.
I think one of the things that's really important to keep in mind is the balance between, it's competitive by what standard? A lot of these wages, and I do not begrudge any city employee. They got a good deal. But these wages are often, if not largely, paid by people who are making $10 to $15 an hour with no benefits. And it's important to keep that in mind because it just isn't right. And I don't know what the solution's gonna be. But when you have people who are making that little, paying that much, there's going to be some begrudging on the parts of the public, I think. Thanks.
Thank you. Just because of the context of the next question, I'm going to limit this to those running for city council and not the mayors. So, because many seniors on fixed incomes who won't get a cost of living increase in their Social Security, will you ask to revisit the 8% water sewer rate increase for 2016 recently approved by a tied vote on city council if you are elected?
Starts with me.
Yes.
I think we need to look at subsidizing water rates for seniors who are qualifying for LEAP. I also think we need to look at charging fees for part-year residents to offset that lower rate. So I'd like to see us hold rates for needy seniors, and proving up by LEAP would be an easy way to certify that. They are already certified on that program. But inflation is real. There are things that we're going to have to maintain with the water plant and the wastewater system. We've got new systems. We put, I believe it's $18 million into both of those. We need to maintain those and protect our investments. So that means that we do have to face inflation and we have to have an increase. And it's a very modest increase. The base rate is lowered for residentials. Commercials are getting just under $3,000 gallons of water included with their base rate, and that's new. So I think it's very equitable.
Mike?
Give me the question again, please.
Because many seniors on fixed incomes who won't get a cost of living increase in their Social Security, will you ask to revisit the 8% water sewer rate increase for 2016 recently approved by a tied vote on council if you are elected?
Definitely yes. And some of the options that I've seen on this, option 2, it lowers the base rate for residents, which looks pretty shiny. But on the other hand, it increases the value of the water to the consumer, and it also attacks the businesses. And the last person we want to attack right now is businesses. We need jobs, and people need water, and seniors certainly need water, and they're on a fixed income. I think we ought to research some type of LEAP program for those seniors to help them out. If they don't pay their bill, there's a lien placed on their property. So they paid for their property for 30 years, and now they got a lien on it. And it's more important of a lien than a tax lien. So, no, I would ask that we do it, and revisit it.
Twice during the time that I have been treasurer, I have recommended an assistance program. I have worked out a plan of how we can do an assistance program so that there's not a lot of time taken up by staff. I think we can use some models of some other commissions and some models that have been used in other cities. And so I would really like to see us move forward with an assistance plan. I also think that a lot of the cost is being driven by the ancient infrastructure that we have, and especially the pipe delivery system. And I think it is worth looking at some of that again and maybe setting some better priorities for that. It certainly seems to me that the water lines are the most critical because they have to be done at the same time as the streets. But it seems like we have more flexibility with those sewer lines, and I would like to take a look at that and see if we couldn't find some better ways there that keep water rates down.
I agree with Elisa and her using, she's got a good point on using subsidies with LEAP as a baseline. But that said, and maybe in conjunction with that, I would still definitely go back and revisit them. Overriding or overriding the decisions that was made regarding the, lost my train of thought completely.
Go ahead. Use the last one.
Problem revisiting, understanding the sewer rates, the sewer and water rates. A couple items came up during their discussions. Using some general funds to help alleviate that, those repairs, understanding the Tabor consequences of our enterprise funds. Those are just several questions I had as I tried to listen and understand the discussions, so I have no problem revisiting that.
It's 8 o'clock, time for a break. A break. To talk about how you would vote, or would you want to rescind the vote on the tie the 8% water increase? Jim?
I would definitely take a look into it. As I'm walking the streets, I see so many houses, in particular in Ward 3, where they've let their grass die. And I don't know if it's because of the water rates or other issues, but I think it's very important that we do what we can to help those, especially the elderly that are on fixed incomes, that cannot afford to pay their water rates. So I definitely would look into it for sure.
Yeah, we definitely have to find a way to have a fund that helps people who can't pay their water bill pay their water bill. We do that with the power company. When I was on the advisory board of the power company, that's one of the things we pushed hard to get through. So I think that will help. As far as the infrastructure, if you read the study, our water infrastructure is very old. It's very old. It's in bad shape. The ditch is old and in bad shape. Some of the ditches that we use were built before the turn of the last century, back in the 1800s. And so the water is critical. We got to have it. The study shows that it's in bad shape, and we're going to have to pay for it. But I do think that even though the rates are going to go up, there's no doubt about it, to fix that infrastructure, that we can, hey, look, I mean, I'm out there. I'm not okay. Yeah.
What happened to our rebuttals?
Yeah.
Well, this is first, do we want rebuttals on this? Somebody does, Alicia.
Yeah, I'd like to just point out that we paid $50,000 for the study, that we've gone back and forth, and there are multiple ways to deal with water rates. One of them is more environmentally sound. That's the one that was passed. The other one is more equitable as far as charging more to part-time residents. I've proposed a different way to deal with that issue. There are times when you need to just make a decision. We've spent a ton of money and a ton of time on this.
Anybody else want a rebuttal? No? Okay. Well, I thought we wouldn't have enough questions, now we probably have too many. Fine. Next. I think it's Jim. What are your thoughts and plans for affordable housing in Salida?
Affordable housing, it's kind of been a buzzword across the board from all candidates, and I definitely have this, have a very strong opinion on that. Yes, I think the providing housing there at the Vanderveer, I think that's very important because we have the land. I understand there were a couple developers that backed out. I'm not sure if they have other developers in the wings or not, but I think it's very important that, so we needed to, for these developers, we need to make sure that we provide them subsidies. If that's infrastructure, I'm not sure. If that's, other utilities, I'm not sure exactly, but I think we need to provide them subsidies. I don't think the city should be in the development business. We should have the expertise for those developers to come in and to do their expertise and provide the housing. So I think that's very important, so that's what I feel.
Affordable housing is a social and an economic issue. It requires a multi-pronged approach. We've got 4 different populations that we're serving: seniors, rentals, homeownership, and transitional. It impacts families who are couch surfing, living in their cars, and living in abandoned buildings. I think we need to get affordable rentals as our first priority and help our families get off the streets. It impacts employers who are seeking skilled workers, and I think that's our second thing that we need to deal with because it's holding our businesses back. They get somebody ready to come here, they can't find a place to live, and then the deal's off. We've got to look at VRBOs and how that's affecting it and what we can do about it. And we have to consider the impact of second ownerships, of people who are here only part of the time. And how can we make all that work together to create some funding for affordable housing? But it needs to be rentals first.
This is one that, as I'm out, I'm out knocking on doors, and the door opens, and there's somebody sleeping on the couch, there are some little kids playing in the doorway, there's somebody sleeping upstairs, and they're all working in kitchens. I speak Spanish, and sometimes they speak Spanish. Wow, this is not just an academic question, folks. This is very important, is to develop that. How do we do it? Well, you've got to have the right kind of public partnerships with the city. We hopefully, by taxing VRBOs, we can develop a good pot of money to begin to work. But it's a skill, knowing when to use the carrot, when to use the stick with these developers, and we've got to welcome them and develop the housing. It's critical.
Affordable housing is critical, and for the time that I've been in Salida, I've seen the loss of a lot of affordable houses, mobile home parks closing, apartments that were once right where we're at, just below us here, was used for affordable housing. It no longer exists. These being made in the condominiums and stuff, and so we've created a situation where we're going to have to look in an area. One of my suggestions would be to look at pre-manufactured homes and talking to the financial institutions about financing, because that's very difficult. Also, mobile home parks can be very, very attractive and can be very useful. And that's one reason we don't have young people here. They can't afford $1,400 to $1,800 a month, when some of the apartments that used to have were like $200 and $300, and some of those apartments are above our establishments downtown right now.
I have been looking into programs available for housing, and there are a wide variety of these. There are even programs that are available to help people renovate. But we really need to know what these programs are, get the information out to people on them. The financing is very difficult on this. I believe that private-public partnerships are the way to go, and I think there's some steps as a city we need to take to get ready for this. We need to do a market analysis. We need to have a housing authority. The housing authority is the agency that looks at who qualifies for income-restricted housing and keeps the deeds restrictions, so that is that either the rentals or the homeownership passes from one to another, that is in place. We as a community need to talk about our housing needs, and we need to set our priorities and develop a long-term plan for that, including, I believe, licensing vacation rentals.
Affordable housing is it's an unfortunate term to me. I prefer to call it home affordability or something, because affordable housing sounds like you're warehousing, but that's a personal opinion. I think that one of the real issues that is being overlooked is something along the lines of not making affordable housing or affordable homes such an issue. We need projects like the Holman Apartments. Those actually are very nicely done, still in good condition after all the years are there. Got some wear and tear on them, but it's a good solution. But what we really need to look at, I think, are existing structures, lockouts, homes that like ADUs, accessory dwelling units. These are places that are 90% done. They just need some modification. Thanks.
Housing, I think when Mike mentioned we lost 20 students from the school district, I'm assuming that's from economic issues. But young families is something we really have to look at to help. You know, as a city, I think our biggest thing is not to hinder that type of development.
Okay. I'm taking one of these questions out of, and add my own comment, which is, I read recently this Salida has one of the highest rates of vacation rentals in the state of Colorado. So, given that, what is your position on vacation rentals? Would you limit the number in the city? How would you tax them? Forrest, you got to start one question, so Forrest will start this week.
I start this one, well, that's good. It's not gonna work to try to limit them. It's a free market economy. People are gonna just do this. There's really no decent way to do it. But you can certainly tax it. I know I sound like a broken record on this, but in my last political life, we taxed them a lot, heavily. Used that money to build a fund that we could then use as the carrot when we sat down with the developers, so that we could get them to go ahead and that's how we, built 800 units. We just did do that. It's not that hard. Most of these developers, once you get in there with them and start to look at it, and if you give them a break on their water tap, if you give them a break on their sewer fee, and if you have a little seed money, they'll build the affordable along with the high end where they make their top buck. They're amenable.
Well, first of all, on vacation housing, somebody's making some money, and a lot of that money's being made without being reported as income. I know the county in the past, I think Bob can relate to this, has tried to identify these homes that are being used for vacation rentals. They too need to pay their share to help us out, and they're filling their pockets, and the rest of us are paying for this stuff. There is money out there, but I think it's imperative that we identify these people that are using those homes as vacation homes, making a lot of money on them, and appropriating the tax to them for them to pay their fair share.
Mike is right. We have a lot of vacation rentals that are not paying the lodging tax that they are supposed to pay. I think the first thing that we need to do is license. And when you license, you can put criteria on the license. You can require that they have local management, so that if you have snow that's not being shoveled or a tree that falls down, there's someone local who can take care of that. So we need to put criteria on this. I think one of the things that I've been noticing is I've been reading a study of 10 mountain communities that have dealt with vacation rentals and the different ways that things that they've tried, what's worked, what hasn't worked. And one of the big differences is separating what they call commercial vacation rentals from people who are actually living on the property. So those are people that come in from the outside, buy a house in a residential area, just for the purpose of running that as a business, and that really raises real estate prices across the community.
I think Cheryl had a lot of good ideas, and Mike as well. I know that when I was with the Chaffey County Assessor's Office, we had a problem with that, because generally speaking, when people decide to use their homes as a vacation rental, they don't stand up and wave a flag. So what the assessor's office did was very time-consuming things like searching the internet for ads for vacation rentals, touch and go. And I think that one of the real issues is finding these places in the first place. We can set up a structure to tax them or in some other way identify them and try to equalize, but finding them is an issue. It's not hard to do, but it is very time consuming.
I think we're gonna have vacation rentals is probably a growing market as far as how we can tax them. Is that the question?
How would you tax them?
Oh, how would you tax them? And then, of course, yeah, identifying, I think, is one of the bigger problems as well. But license fees, I guess they're supposed to be paying a lodging tax already, if I'm not mistaken. And then maybe possibly a commercial status on their property, on the property tax laws.
Pretty much agree with what everyone else said. You know, you have to identify them, and that's the hardest part. So once we do identify them, yes, I believe we need to tax them accordingly. I mean, that's not fair to all of us here. Not only are we not taxing them, they're not spending the monies in our stores. I mean, that's a big thing for our retail people or retail people. So that's a big issue. As far as new developments, I think we should limit how many you can have in this. If we have a certain subdivision, make sure that we tax those accordingly also. So yes, limit if we have new development, identify those that are being used as rentals, and then tax them accordingly, because it's hurting us all. It's hurting our tax base across the board. So that's very important.
Well, I agree that they're doing the lodging tax on them now, and it's not fair and equitable because so many people are getting out of paying the tax. So I agree with Cheryl that licensing would help. We could look at charging them commercial rates on their utilities and get rid of some of those residential advantages that they're enjoying. One citizen talked to me about the devastating effect on the neighborhood. She has some visual impairments and she needs some help. And so there's no one around because there's so many vacation rentals. She can't get anybody to help her shovel the snow on the sidewalk. So looking at the neighborhood impacts and somehow incentivizing some neighborhood continuity, like giving locals first option to take that space. It's devastating in different ways that don't come to mind right away. Because until she told me about that, I didn't think, what would it be like if everybody near you was a visitor and they were loud and having too much fun and not care about you?
Okay. Next question. Let's start with Mike. Where do you stand on street improvements and repairs in Salida?
Well, I'll tell you right now, it definitely needs to be done, and it's as important to me as the infrastructure underneath those streets. I think if we don't do something, we're going to play catch up way down the line here. It's going to cost us a whole bunch more. They need to be redone. They need to be looked at, and they need to be maintenance. They haven't been maintenance, as far as I'm concerned, and that's why they're in the condition they're in. If we don't do something, and with the initiative that just came out, if we don't do something, we're only going to kick this can down the road, and it's going to cost us a lot more money. And who wants to be a tourist to come to a place that's got streets like downtown Lebanon? I think we owe it to ourselves and we owe it to our visitors to fix these streets.
The city does have a 5-year street plan. It's right up here. And I think we need to do everything we can to stick to that plan and follow through. I think one of the big concerns that I have about it at this point, though, is money for maintenance, because maintenance comes out of our operational budget. And as we get these streets repaved and in good condition, we really need to keep up the maintenance on them. And that's what my concern is at this point. I was riding my bike down a street the other day that was paved not this summer, but the summer before, and there are already some cracks in it. And I know if you don't seal those things, you get water in there. And so I want to make sure that we have the maintenance to go with the capital projects. so that we can keep the streets in good repair and that we're not wasting our capital funds by not doing the maintenance that needs to go with them.
Well, I think the idea behind maintenance is particularly on streets that have been recently rebuilt, if they need maintenance, which they very well may. I think it's absolutely pivotal, or else we just wasted a whole busload of money. I think that the types of the older streets, particularly over in Mike's ward, I remember when I first moved here, I used to joke about the streets and I used to joke about the sidewalks. And they were no joke, but that's the way it was. They were just bad, bad, bad all across the town, and they've gotten better. And when we see this, we should take enormous pride in what we've done. And that should really be an impetus for us to stay on top of it, give it whatever it's going to take to keep them nice and smooth and sweet. And be happy about that, be proud about that.
I definitely think we should do what we can each year as far as replacing the streets and the infrastructure. Over here, of course, they have our 5-year plan on the wall. That is something I will have to understand, as well as the council, if people have to understand where we're going with that. The only other item I would bring in to this conversation would be that we have to know what the streets are costing us in good times, and we have to know what the streets are costing us in bad times. But we do have to keep a steady pace of repairing our streets.
I also don't know the 5-year street plan, or the 10-year street plan, or the 15-year street plan. But you talk to people in Ward 3, it's not working. It's not working for them one bit. So, I talked to a gentleman down there as I was walking the streets, and his thought was, he told me that it was 1960 when they paved his street. And it's been potholes after potholes and patching. And yes, one portion is fine, next on the side street it's not fine. So yes, there's plans out there, but it seems like it's not working for certain people in our community. And that is not fair. We need to prioritize those people that live down there in Ward 3 and do what we can to get them up to standards with the rest of us. So I think that's very important.
You know, I live on Palmer Street, and I was really happy to see that it was on the street plan for 2017 because it's in really bad shape. The way that the street priorities are set right now is based on usage. That gives Ward 3 a disadvantage. So I feel like we're not really getting our fair share of the street work over there. And a lot of people are saying that, they're recognizing that. We've made a lot of progress on streets. I used to laugh, and really it's not funny now. They would pave the street, and within a week, there would be backhoes out there digging up the road. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? And now we're trying a different approach. We're trying to fix what's under the streets first. That's more time consuming, takes a lot more planning, more gathering of funds to make all that happen in the right order. And I'm glad that we slowed down and started doing it right.
I've sat through all the budget discussions about the streets, and it's very clear, well, it's clear to me anyway, that our streets department is underfunded and understaffed. And we can throw money at it, but they are, sorry street workers if any of you are here, but to some degree they are an aging group. They don't have an engineer on staff. There was one in the budget and it got taken out. They need an engineer on the staff. They need young, vigorous street workers. I see some sitting here. Sorry. Oh, I'm in trouble. I think I'll just stop now. They need a different staff, more money, and an engineer.
Okay. What is your understanding of the operating budget deficit we face, and what do you plan to do about it?
We do have about a $500,000 deficit, And at this point, council has accepted some areas to make cuts. Municipal governments provide services in 3 areas: safety, infrastructure, and what we might call quality of life. And certainly, I think one of the things that would help us in dealing with cuts that we have to make is to set some criteria. Certainly, I think in the safety and infrastructure area, we want to cut as little as possible. So that leaves us with cuts in that quality of life area, and that's certainly not popular. Someone's going to be very unhappy with that. But while we're putting so much money aside for capital, I think that we really have to make the hard cuts and then reevaluate as time goes on.
There are going to be a lot of points, if I get elected to council, there are going to be, well, at least a couple of points where I'm going to be on a steep learning curve, and budgets are one of them. And I'm not going to pretend to have an answer for that, but it is something that I will definitely pursue and I will have a lot of input on. And that's on the learning shelf. Thank you.
Same here on the learning curve, but we are fortunate. Our city does have a fairly substantial reserve. We just have to determine what is sustainable as far as operating and maintenance on our budget. And as it gets, if it gets less and less sustainable, you just have to start cutting. That's just a general understanding of government accounting and government budgets.
There's no doubt it's something we're going to have to address. As far as knowing the specifics as to what we can cut, I hope to learn more and more about that, but there's definitely something we're going to have to cut. As far as understanding the impact that's going to happen, it's going to happen to all of us. Sometimes I think, we got all this revenue coming in, why can't we go from fund to fund? That kind of sounds like that's something we should look into, but is that something we can legally do? From what I understand, they say no, but I think we need to do something to make sure we address the budget cuts and do it in a respectful way and make sure we do it fairly. It's going to be a hard thing for any of us to get elected, so we need to work together to make sure we do what we can to provide a good way to do that.
Cheryl's right about the $500,000 shortfall for 2015. On the proposed budget for 2016, the shortfall is $126,000. So it's not quite as bad. But unfortunately, it chops out all funding to nonprofits. It eliminates all jobs that department heads have been asking for years. That's 4 on public service, 1 police officer. That affects our safety because they don't have the number of officers that they need. We don't get the fire marshal that we need. And so they've made some really draconian cuts, and now we're down to a $126,000 shortfall. It's not a sustainable situation. Council tried for 9 months. I watched them try to cut money out of the budget. They didn't find anything. Everything they proposed, they wound up taking it back away, and now they're characterizing that they're going to cut excess out of the budget. I'm not sure what they're talking about because they couldn't find it before. We have to do something.
Yeah, we're top heavy. There's no doubt. We're way top heavy, and way too much money going into bricks and mortar projects, and not enough money going into the kind of staff that takes care of the bricks and mortar. I really think the new council is going to have to rebalance it somehow. And what you were saying is true. We've tried all kinds of stuff. We've talked about increasing dog licenses. We've talked about taxing streetlights. We've all kinds of really bizarre ideas that have wandered through there. But the things somehow got to be rebalanced because the lion's share of the money goes to capital, and yet we don't have the personnel to manage the capital. So it's going to be really interesting to see how we can work that one through. And we're pretty smart people. I think we'll work something out. Hope so.
I agree, the shortfall is about 500,000, but I think that some of the council people, too, namely Councilman Brown and Councilman Eileen Rogers, indicated at the last council meeting that they had found about $400,000. And I do think there is some prospects on the horizon. One of those is the 0.05% tax that the county wants to put on. That's going to alleviate a big expenditure for our emergency services, and it's going to be helpful. Also, I've brought this up before, but other counties and cities are looking at taxes on recreational marijuana, and I would like to look at that and seek that out. But I do think there's a solution to this, and we've got some great people on council right now that's pretty sharp on that.
Ideas do you have for stimulating or supporting small business activities and development in Salida?
This is going to be a long pause. I think that as far as inviting or getting businesses to move here, we're going to have to be really careful about the types of incentives. That's the question, but the types of incentives that we are able to offer them, whether they're zoning preferences or whether there are other avenues that would open doors for them, and I just we're gonna have to see about it. We're gonna have to see.
Rusty?
I don't have any major brainstorm idea to attract 50 small businesses to Salida. I do know as a city we cannot hinder their desire to come here. We need to work with them and ask them what we can do to make it easier. If that works with them, then we continue to work with them to see if we can get them to fill up the Burger King building or the KFC building. I just know we just can't go by strict codes day in and day out because of the variety of businesses that might want to come here. Those are the new ideas coming in. Ours are not the new ideas, but we just have to work with them.
I think one big issue we have to address is we have the Vanguard properties there. We can put small businesses there. So again, I think we need to develop that property to entice these companies to come here. I know when I was in Pueblo, they had an economic development group, and they would literally go out and solicit companies to come to their areas. I'm not sure we should be doing something like that. We should also be working with the Small Business Alliance, because they're the people in the know. They know what's good for our area here. I think it's very important to get the communication going with them, going with the city, going with the public, and make sure we do what we can to entice those companies here. So we definitely need to get some kind of a task force going to be able to address the problem, and that's giving them incentives to be able to come here.
I think we need to recognize that community prosperity is what makes businesses want to come here. And two of the major attractants are quality schools and the quality of life, obviously. And we are on top of those new schools, and it is making the community very desirable where businesses want to come here. That's going to support our economic development, our economic future. Those things that we've invested in, the stain plant downtown, which is an anchor, the swimming pool, the trails, all of the sound investments that we have made are developing our economic future, because that's what makes people want to come here. The idea on the VOTEC school was fronted by another citizen. They thought it was a great use of the Vanderveer property. That would help lift up the workforce and make them ready to take some of those great jobs.
If any of you went to the small business incubator, I see a couple of you who went, and all the things that you just mentioned were mentioned there. That the quality of life is what attracts small business. But she also in that questionnaire talked about things that were disincentives. And one of the disincentives was the general notion that the city council was unable to move, was deeply intractable, was badly divided, and was too ideological. Those were the things that they listed as disincentives. So those are something that we can do something about. Those are something a mayor could do something about. So let's try to get away from some of those disincentives.
As far as attracting small business into Salida, I think there's been a great effort in the past 4 years to do that. One of those examples is Town Country. Tax incentives were given to them, and you see the results of it out on Highway 50 now. I know, being a small business owner myself, how tough it is sometimes to endure some of the charges, such as a $10,000 sewer tap in your backyard so you get a bathroom. Those sort of things can be worked on by the city council. And we can encourage these people through the incubators. We've got 2 of them here. We've got one with Western State College upstairs. We've got one down here at the Twitchell building now. We've got Wendell Pryor and Jeff Post that are working diligently. We're going to have to find some affordable housing. We're going to have to work on some other issues to go along with this. But we can attract small business, and that's what the United States was built on, which is small businesses. And we can do that together.
Businesses do come to vibrant communities, and I think Salida is now in a position to be seen as a vibrant community. We do need to broaden our economic base. I think we are far too dependent on tourism right now, and our job base is mostly in the service industry. And we need to have those different kinds of jobs to attract young people to our community. So certainly housing and post-secondary education, as well as a good school system, help us attract that. I think the city needs to form as many partnerships as possible. We are working with some of the incubator businesses now and the economic development group, but we need to be seen as business friendly. We also need to do some thinking about what kinds of businesses we want to come to our community and then go after some of that. But I think partnerships are the best thing that the city can do to help bring in new business.
Merle, was the plan for 2 minute closings or 1 minute closings? 2 minutes. Okay. And it's time for closing statements.
I want to thank Merle and everybody that's put this together. This has been one of the greatest debates that I've been involved in many years, and believe me, I've been to 3 or 4 of them. Unfortunately, I didn't make sure, but I'm really impressed with what you put together here. I'm impressed with what the questions have been to us candidates. I would like to say in closing that I am running for election. I hope to go on for 4 years. I intend to continue my commitment, my dedication, my integrity, and fair and impartial representation. If I am elected, I work to control spending and reduce inflated budgets, demand compliance with all state laws, city ordinances, and policies to avoid costly legal representation, lawsuits, or special elections. I'd like to continue to vote as an individual, not as a majority, with no conflict of interest. I'd like to work to avoid unnecessary and unreasonable raises in the water and sewer rates and other city utilities. I'd like to continue to work on the badly needed street and infrastructure replacement and repairs, especially in Ward 3. to listen to all citizens' concerns and complaints, responding with respect and civility, relieving any fear of retaliation or retribution of any kind. I'd like to promote economic development and encourage development of the Vanderveer property in an effort to enhance the city of Salida and for the good of the community. And last but not least, I would like to work to restore the public trust and confidence in our city government, staff, and elected officials, requiring a high degree of citizen respect and personal relationships. Your consideration and your vote would be greatly appreciated. Thank you very much.
You're next.
Well, I do ask you to vote for me for mayor. I think I would be a mayor for everyone, and that we would open the doors of city council so you could all participate and not have a situation in which you might be scared away. As I knock on doors, I do hear some people who say, I wouldn't go near a city council meeting. Well, I think a mayor can do a lot to ameliorate that situation, to make people feel that they're welcome, that they can come here, that they can share their ideas. We've heard the same themes tonight. They're the ones I believe in certainly as well. We stand at really kind of, I don't mean to be too dramatic about this, but we seem to be kind of at a crossroads now. Whether we want to continue with new ideas, whether we want to continue to be open to creativity, to be the kind of welcoming, pretty warm city that attracted me here in the first place, or whether we want to degenerate into a lot of difficulties and a lot of arguments. And I would hope that we wouldn't do that. And I think a mayor sets the tone. I think a mayor sets the tone for openness, for understanding, for the kind of warmth that we have generated here in the city of Salida for a really long time. The other couple of things that I want to mention, the mayor, the current mayor and I have often sat down and talked about where I would agree with him, where I would disagree with him on his votes, but we both agreed on the fact that it's a good city and we like being here, and we hope you'll like being here too. So I'd appreciate your vote. Please vote for me.
I want to thank everybody for participating and coming out tonight. I want to be a leader because I care deeply about our people, families, and community. I will embody civility to bring us back to our core values of kindness and respect. It's time for a culture shift toward the positive, the future, our children. Let's explore our points of agreement and begin this journey together. I can assure I will do my homework and do the right thing, as I did when I triple checked with the IEC Executive Director and City Attorney to query what would be the right thing to do in the case of having a family member as an employee and voting on the city budget. Both advised it would unlikely be a violation of any rules. However, if it ever was, I would recuse myself. This is exactly why I will pass clear rules and guidelines for our behavior. I will strengthen community understanding of finance. I can talk to people about from where they live and explain complex government accounting, comparing it to household accounting. Nonprofits and governments face similar obstacles when it comes to funding operations. It's a lot more fun to fund crayons and paintbrushes than it is to pay the art teacher. Projects are built by people for people's benefit. Without people, the work doesn't get done. I will champion a family-friendly community with equitable distribution of resources. Thank you.
Vibrant community. Salida has done more in the last 10 years than we have in the previous 50. The city has not been listening to our citizens. Currently, this is how I see our community. 25% want no change, keep it as it was years ago. They believe that if you are not with me, you're against me. They believe the end justifies the means. On the opposite spectrum, We have 25% believe in their passions. They want a great deal of change. They also believe that if you are not with me, you are against me. They also believe the end justifies the means. In the past couple of years, their means have been overturning public votes by 4-3 to move their passions. I see myself in the middle, 50%. We understand change is and will happen. We understand years ago that the major event was FIBAR. We also understand the importance of drawing in events and festivals like the bike runs, art walk, rafting, and entertainment to our cities. We know we will be inconvenienced with additional 4,000 to 20,000 tourists, but we are okay with that because it's in the best interest of our community. We know we will have to put money into our infrastructure. We understand the importance of sales tax to pay for further services. We also feel we need to diversify our sales revenue so we are not so much that we are not so much than a tourist community. We need more jobs, additional housing, supporting businesses. We also need to have more money for all. We also know we do not have money for all the passions. We believe we need a balance. We want to work with the staff and move into a balanced direction. I want to be I want to be more than a ribbon cutter, more hands-on. We need to work together to benefit of the city. My question is to you: do we want more the same or a fresh new start? Please vote for me. Thank you.
All these excellent closing statements. I want to thank the Mountain Mail, and I want to thank you especially for my 2002 photo in the paper. But I do urge all of you to vote. I urge everyone to vote. I plan to work with your choice of mayor. My goal is not to let the mayor vote. I plan to work with your choice as new city council people. I want to understand them and I want to learn their points of view. I think in that respect, I think as a council you have lots of good choices here, and I thank Ward 1 for their confidence in me as being unopposed in this election. Thanks.
Arnie and all the people who managed to put this together and hold it together so well. This has been an excellent forum, and I have appreciated being here. This is my first one. I look forward to working with people. I think that one of my strongest assets or skills is people skills and dealing with people, listening. I seek people out to listen to. I learn a lot from people all the time. And I think that's going to be a really vital and a really useful and a beneficial thing to bring to council. I have seen too many times where there is shallow listening, shall we say. You won't find that in me. I'm also a U.S. Navy veteran, just in closing. I had about 5 years as a broadcaster, at 25 years in construction, and some of that was extremely high-tech halon suppression systems. I've dealt with a broad spectrum of personalities, people, circumstances, work environments, and I think all of that is unique in its own way, but I think I will bring that to the council, and it will be of good import to have a listener and a communicator. Thank you.
I would like to thank all of you for coming out tonight on a rainy night. It's wonderful to see so many people interested and present. I have the background and the knowledge for this position. I know the issues and can start out running. Immediate budget decisions will have to be made, and I am ready to do this. I want balance and reason and will judge each new issue without predisposition. At the beginning of this campaign, I committed myself to discussing me, my qualifications, my approach, and what was important to me. I have run my campaign in a manner consistent with my ethical standards. We need a council that can work together. It is a body, a legal entity, and I will foster that. I will work to stop personal attacks and support a code of ethics. So the real issue here is what you want for the future in city council meetings and for our community. Those working to erode trust in local government have also taken away our trust in each other. And this has happened at a time when we are prospering and can finally begin to tackle fixing streets, pipes, and sidewalks to foster incubator businesses and determine how to deal with second homes and vacation rentals. Because I care deeply about Salida, I want to mend the division in the city and to keep our community vibrant. People in my ward have told me that not getting along is not reflective of Salida. It's not the way it should be. They don't want a deadlock like we've had. This is our community, our neighbors, and our future. I want city council meetings to be welcoming and pleasant. I also want a balance between tourism and being a real city with residents of all ages who can actually find jobs and housing. So I hope you will support me and move us away from quibbling and into effective management of our beloved city. And I'd like to end with a quote from Sia Tate. It's not just what you do in life that matters, but how you do it.
Thank you all.